I just picked up the most comfortable ski boot ever made. What's happening, Panda Nation? Peter Von Panda here. Hey, I like to go skiing, but in recent years, I've actually thought about giving it up because ski boots are so painful. I don't understand how the original people that went skiing with modern technology ski boots didn't say, dude, we got to work on the ski boot. They are uncomfortable. They're terrible. I don't care if they fit pretty well. Most people, when they take off the ski boot, just breathe a sigh of relief to get out of them. That's why the après ski is so popular, because it's just getting out of the boot. Now, I wanted to get a pair of ski boots that was comfortable, and I didn't care about the cost. I didn't care about the technology. I would do anything because I wanted to get back on the slopes. There's a lot in my physical shape and my stance that makes ski boots particularly hard to fit for me, and I think I've got it figured out how I'm going to solve it. But a lot of people, especially in the ski community, were like, learn to snowboard. I have snowboarded before. I don't like it. It's terrible. And so a lot of people are just going to like deal with it, but I don't think you have to. And this company apparently doesn't think you have to either. It's Apex Ski Boot System. Now, I will tell you that there appear to be a couple companies that are innovating in the ski boot arena. Apex apparently is one of them, and then Dahoo seems to be another one. I did check out both, and I went with the Apex ultimately because it seemed like they had more adjustability, and the way they were constructed was going to fit my weird, grotesque feet. Trigger warning, I'm actually going to be testing these and showing them to you on my foot and leg. So prepare yourself. I hope you haven't eaten lately. Now, I want to show you here, I've actually got a Fisher ski boot that I have used in the past. And this is because it actually had a little bit more comfortable stance. They're kind of canted out, and I thought that would be great. But this Fisher boot is just like a lot of ski boots in that it is basically made for a foot that I don't think exists in the real world. You can see how the top portion is very straight. It doesn't accommodate a really wide calf. Now, you can say, well, how about the cuff here? You can adjust some of those back. Well, some of them you can, but even when you do that, what ends up happening is this whole cuff kind of just moves back, and I actually can't get the straps to close very well. So my problem is I'm always using the last tooth on the straps here, and I have too much pressure on my calf. And then down here, I'm always using the furthest tooth, and this is not tight enough in some ways because I have the huge calf and a small foot. Now, I've also got a wide foot, and I also stand kind of duck-footed. And so my problem here is because of the way these are generally constructed, even if you make adjustments, so if you loosen this up, you kind of get loose down here. And if you tighten this up, you kind of get tight up here. So I wanted to see if I could find something really comfortable. Now, the Apex ski boot here, and this is a true unboxing, is actually a two-piece system, and it kind of reminds me of snowboard boots. So looks like we get some instructions in here how to dial it in, and I'm going to tell you that this video is going to be a little longer because I'm going to go into the details on these boots because I actually haven't found really good detailed tours of these, just kind of more overviews of people using them. So what we get here is this Apex boot. Now this one is supposed to be the top of the line. It's the Antero. The Antero is kind of your big mountain model. So we get the boots. We also get a strap for carrying them together, which is pretty cool. So you get that in there. We also have a tool here to do the adjustments, especially on the cant. And then we also have some of these additional flexibility washers. So this adjustability washer can be replaced. It's on medium. You can go to a stiff or a loose. This is how we'll adjust the lean. Then we also get, looks like some ties here, and then we get the other boot. All right, I tell you what, these things look pretty awesome. We have tube in here, just kind of provide the space. And at a glance, they kind of look like your normal ski boot, but what you can see here is that there's basically this exterior chassis, and I think it's plastic reinforced with fiber or fiberglass, something like that. And then we have the boot inside. Now, what makes this really awesome is that the boot is where the fit is made. And so you adjust this inner lining for comfort. So the comfort is determined here, which I really love. And what you can see here is that they have these BOA systems, B-O-A, and this is for tightening it down. So tightening it down is really, really simple. Now, One thing that I was kind of concerned with is that it uses these metal cables to kind of cinch everything down. And I was thinking, well, one, are they going to be strong enough? Are they kind of threaded in the right areas where they're not going to unravel and get caught up on things? And it doesn't really look like that. I mean, it definitely looks well thought out. I know there can be problems with it. If something gets loose, you can fix on your own, or you can take it back to a ski shop and they will adjust it. But this may be the easiest way to fit the boot on your leg of any ski boot ever. So what I want to show you here is that you kind of twist these and that tightens it down, right? Now the reason we have two of these is that the lower one tightens the lower portion of the foot and the top one tightens the upper portion of the foot. And remember what I said here is that I kind of have a small foot and a giant leg, giant calf. My buddy Ian calls them the Virginia hams. And so what I want is some ability to adjust these completely separately. And the way this is set up with the wires down here and the wires up here, that is actually the design here. Now, you might say, all right, once you tighten it up, how do you loosen it? So you just pull this sucker out, I think, just like that. And now it's loose. I can pull this one out, and now it's loose, and now I can just open this thing up and get into it, right? And when you want to tighten it down, you just start twisting it. It kind of reminds me of those Reebok pump shoes from the 80s when you could just kind of pump them up and use the air to inflate the tongue. Now, I also want to say that what I've heard is that once you're on the mountain, and you've got these things tightened up, and after your first run and you've kind of stretched things out, it's good to kind of give it another twist right here. Now, I do want to show you. Basically, it looks like the wire goes down the side here and then runs up and down these two sides. So it's probably not going to be the easiest thing to see here, but it's kind of taking that up. Now I want to show you it's a little easier up here. You can see how loose these wires are. And basically I think they're going all the way around the back. So if I twist these, you can see it taking up the slack there and tightening that up. So dude, it doesn't get any easier than that. So what I'm really hoping is I can get a nice tight fit down here where I've always wanted it and tighten this up appropriately around my leg without cutting off all the blood to my head. So I'm going to loosen those up again here a second because it has another lining inside here just like almost every other ski boot. And what you can see here is it's kind of nice. We have some kind of like a vinyl lining. It's actually kind of silvery. This is heat moldable, so you don't have to heat mold it, but what you can do here is the technique I've seen is to microwave rice kernels, put them in a sock, put them in there to get it nice and warm, then put your foot in there and just tighten everything down for about 10 minutes or so, and that will kind of give you a custom fit. So this is really nice that you have this heat moldable liner in there as well. Now, I've actually never done that, but I am excited about potentially doing that on here to get a really perfect fit. You can see there's a little loop up here and a little loop up here. You can also see that the boot is really nice. We have some vinyl on the side. You have some green highlights. You can see the stitching there. It looks great. This material down here almost feels like a textured rubber, almost kind of a little bit like mats in a bathtub. It's got a little bit of tackiness, but it feels a little bit more durable than kind of this up here. And maybe that's where it's going to interface with the chassis, and so it just needs to be a little more durable. You can see this is almost like a textured vinyl here. It looks great. You've got some more of that textured rubber on the toe. I think this is where it's going to take a lot of abuse when it interfaces with the chassis. You can see the bottom here looks just like a regular boot, and that's the whole point, is that if you were just wearing this, it would be like a snow boot and super duper comfortable. So you can walk around here, your après ski, go to the bar. For me, I just like walking around the ski village and checking out hot chicks. And again, a lot of this looks a lot like you might expect with snowboards. So pretty cool. Up here, again, I think all of this is like some sort of nylon or rubberized material, molded, and it's very stiff. And so I think the nice thing is, especially when you have these wires in there, you've got them kind of wrapped around areas that are really, really strong and reinforced. So you're never going to feel any wires pinching. You're never going to feel any hot spots. It's going to distribute any of that pressure all around your foot. So I will also say, as you're sizing these things, this one is a Mondo 28. The sizing is a little bit different from your typical ski boot. And so don't just take your current Mondo size and order these. Go onto their website. They give you a little guide about measuring your foot. And it doesn't surprise me that they would be different. Now, the other thing I will say here is that because you have this piece that needs to go on this piece, the chassis here actually might be quite a bit longer than your current boot. And so you will also want to check to make sure that your ski bindings can adjust to the new length. Now, if you're getting new skis and new bindings, then you can have them just mounted to fit this, but understand that this could be quite a bit longer. You can see that the toe is up here, but basically you're getting all that ski boot type of feature in the binding here in the base. Now, Down here, there's a little bit of weight to this. It seems super duper strong, as you can see here. I mean, to me, it looks like plastic. It looks like typical ski boot plastic. I assume this is very strong. You can see, looks like there's a metal receiver piece on the screw that adjusts for the flexibility right there. You can also see in here that it's all black plastic. We've got kind of this polyester apex base on there. And then you have this strap for the toe portion. You have a strap up here for your ankle portion. And then you also have a strap which is on this 2-strap nylon webbing for right in kind of that bend of your ankle. So you have 3 straps here, as opposed to the typical 4 straps that you find on a normal ski boot. 2 up here and 2 down here. Now, I got this because what you can see up here, and I couldn't find this in the specs, but I saw it in one of the pictures, is that there is some macro adjustment to this top binding. And because I have giant Virginia ham-sized calves, I thought that would be really important. So you can see here it's on the middle. It's just kind of like a key mod lock. It looks like I can maybe just push this back. It's in there pretty tight, so I'm not going to move it yet because I kind of want to dry fit everything and just see how it fits before I make some adjustments. But what I liked is that it looks like I could get almost another ½ inch here of travel. So if I moved it to this back hole, and especially when I am trying to fit this to my big calves, then I just might have kind of the space I need. So I like the fact that this has the macro adjustment. You also have on all these straps micro adjustments, I believe. So you can take these and then twist them either way to kind of dial in just a little bit of extra tightness or looseness. So you can twist them clockwise or counterclockwise to kind of move them in and out just a little bit. So I really like that. You can also adjust the cant here. So for me, because I'm very duck-footed, on every other normal ski boot, it kind of turns my flat foot out like this because my feet are like this, and as I bring them in, that ends up making me very bow-legged. And so what you also have here with this tool is I can adjust the cant here, so I can take the tool that they included here and I can raise or lower the inside and outside to adjust for either bow-legged or knock-kneed. Now the way you do this is there's a little tiny arrow and it's facing back. On the other side we have the same thing, and I can make that adjustment either just with one side or both sides to get kind of the biggest effect. Now if I put the tool in here and then if I turn this so that the arrow is facing down, I could kind of feel it snap into place, and this whole side, this piece right here, is separate from this bottom piece, and what it's done is it's raised this up a little bit. Now I can also make an additional adjustment on the outside here, and that's going to bring this side down a little bit, giving me even more lean to the outside, which is going to help my particular stance. Now the buckles here look just like most buckles on any ski boot. You can see we have kind of a nylon strap up here. Down here we actually have a nylon attachment, but then we have a flexible nylon strap down here. Now down here on the middle where the foot bends, I want to show you that this bottom strap looks like it has Velcro right there. So you can probably adjust this a little bit. I didn't know that it had that too. So if you wanted to kind of angle this down a little bit more or release it up a little higher, you can do that too. So that's pretty nice. And then you have a nylon strap right here. Again, it kind of splays out right there. So you've got it holding down, and then the outside of the chassis is right there. On the toe here, you can see that there is a little cup, and that's basically going to take this little front edge of the boot and hold it in. So it'll hold the boot in from going and sliding forward. Now, one of the important things here to get it in is you put the toe in first, and then you kind of slam the heel down in the back. So that makes sure that the boot is down underneath this little edge here. The other thing that I'm really excited about is that I can adjust the lean right here with this screw. So as you can see, it's kind of canted forward. I think it's in kind of that middle position, which I think is about 10 degrees. If you push this bar all the way up, you kind of get this to 14 degrees. And if you bring it all the way back, I think it's like 7 or 8 degrees, something like that. Now, because I have such ginormous calves, even when my calf is vertical, I'm actually canted forward about 8 degrees already. So when they are leaned forward like this, it kind of makes me look goofy because I am leaned really far forward in my skis. So one of the things that I'm going to do here is I'm going to take the tool and I'm going to remove the screw back here. There's a little bit of blue thread locker on the screw, which actually is nice too, so that I know that they are in the right position. There is this little interface piece with the hole that kind of fits into some lines here on the bottom, so you're gonna have to kind of just move that up towards the top and then kind of push them back together. Put this little washer back in. The washer actually has some radiating lines there which helps lock it. So I'm going to put that back in with those lines up to interface with the screw. And we're going to put the screw back in here. And you can see it's all the way to the top of where you can make that adjustment, meaning that the ski is now as vertical as it can be. Again, 7 or 8 degrees, I think, in lean on that. But combined with the fact that my calf will take up, 6 to 7 inches back here, means I'm still going to be in a very lean forward position. So I'm going to make the adjustment on this boot as well. All right, so enough talking about the boot. Let's try it out. I've gone ahead and put my foot in here, and I will tell you that the way they tell you to measure this on the website seems to be right. From putting my foot into this inner liner here, it feels like a really good fit. There might just be a little extra toe room. Now, I don't have a ski sock on yet. That's going to add just a little bit of thickness, but I love the fact that it feels this good right now, and I think the ski socks that I use are generally fairly thin, but I don't think that's going to matter. Now, one of the things that you can see here is just how big this bloody calf is, man. And it's funny because I have a really thin and narrow ankle, but then my calf just gets massive right up here, dude. I can probably leg press a small house. Listen, the problem here is that even with this, the BOA system, it seems like this is not going to close all the way. Now, I'm really hoping that I can still get this whole thing to work, so we will find out. The cool thing about this is if I go ahead and I snap these BOAs back in and start tightening them down, the bottom here is being tightened with just this lower one. So here, where I can't usually get enough pressure down on the top of my foot, you can see it's kind of pulling this big piece down. I think there is a metal reinforcement in there. So as I'm pulling it down, it's starting to put pressure right in here and on the top of my foot. And I really like that because I'm getting a nice secure feeling with this bottom BOA, which is great. And I haven't done anything up here, right? So I'm not doing something down here, which is pushing a plastic tongue or pulling the boot together up here. At this point, when I'm strapping on the lower buckles on most ski boots, I'm already getting pressure and compressed up here in a way that's already uncomfortable before I've even snapped anything down. So I really like this. Now, one of my concerns here is that these are pretty small cables, and I feel like I'm putting a lot of pressure on them, and especially under the strain of skiing, that's going to put a lot of pressure, but I haven't heard anyone talk about them snapping or anything, so that's pretty good. Now, I do feel like I have a pretty nice secure fit on the lower portion of my foot. Now, as you can see here, I'm actually going to go ahead and try to start tightening down this top BOA. You can see it taking up the cables there, and that already feels pretty tight. I mean, you do want it tight so that you're not moving around, but like I said, if I put a lot of pressure on here, it just kind of gets uncomfortable. But I could keep going, man. I mean, it's just nice because you can kind of dial it in. Right there, that feels pretty darn good. Now, again, just to reinforce how big my calves are, you would see that normally this little flap, I think, would go in between the lining and this outside flap right there, but they are barely touching. Same on this side. So normally those will be tucked together, and I've got a little bit of a gap there. So on a really big calf like this, that is the problem. That's the problem I've always had. Now, if you go ahead and grab the chassis, again, what you want to do here is put the toe in first so that you don't go past that ridge. And now I'm going to just step on it, push the back of my foot down. Feels like I'm in there. Yeah, feels pretty good. And now I'm going to go ahead and snap my buckles down. And again, this is really just holding the inner boot to the chassis. Now, here's the problem. Again, small feet. Look, I can go all the way to this last tooth, and that feels tight, but it doesn't feel overly tight. So it feels fine, but that's the conundrum that I've always had. Now, this other one will go over here. You want to kind of clear this bottom of the BOA. I don't mind it being tight here, holding my foot in place. And again, I'm on the last tooth. That just kind of, again, reinforces that my foot is not strangely fit. And then if I go to the top buckle right here, I want to show you, look at that. It doesn't even get to these teeth. So I'm going to have to use that macro adjustment. I'm going to need everything I can get to get around to get to the teeth out here. Now, when you do remove this to make this macro adjustment, you can see there's this little tab in here. And so if you're pulling on it, you're actually pulling against that tab. So what you have to do is you have to lift this off just a little bit so that you clear that tab before you pull on this. Now, it still might be a little hard, but you just have to muscle it, and now you can pull this off. Now, one of the things that you have to do is make sure that that tab is back in place. So when I move it back here, I can put that on just like that and then pull this down. But I want that little tab to be behind the grommet there, or the rivet, so that the tab goes back into this little slot right here, back here, so that I don't have to worry about it inadvertently coming off. So if I pull it there, that tab is in there. So now when I push on the strap, it's not gonna come off. So just something to keep in mind. Keep looking for that little tab there. So let's try putting it on again. And now look, I can get there. I can actually get to this one, but it might be a little too tight when I get this snapped on. So I can get to that last tooth, pull that on. Woo! That macro adjustment there is a godsend. Thank goodness I had that. Tell you what, man, you know, the whole time I was doing that macro adjustment on that top buckle, I was wearing this boot, and I will tell you, I have never felt as comfortable in a ski boot as I have with this. And even with everything cinched down, you don't have those crushing pain points that you do in a molded boot. You know, I would say that all of the normal hot spots that you have in a boot, which is usually kind of on this outside pinky toe, on the toes up here, especially obviously up here for me, I just don't have any of that, right? It's really tight up here, and that's partially because, you know, I probably need more shape to the lining. So when I heat mold this, I'm going to kind of thin this out and put more down here. And then some orthotics can take up some of the space underneath there. But I will tell you, man, I have never been as comfortable in a boot as I am right now. And especially when I had the chassis off and the boas undone, it was like wearing any of those slip-on outdoor winter boots, because it just feels great. Even walking around in it, it's just super flexible and super comfortable. So I tell you what, you know, there's nothing about this that says to me this is going to be any less effective than a regular ski boot. You know, as you add pieces into things, you tend to add complexity, and sometimes you add weak points. Anything is only as strong as its weakest point. And so I was really worried, because of kind of the abuse that you can put on a ski boot as you're skiing, that this wouldn't be as good. I can tell you right now, there's nothing about it that feels like it is any weaker or inferior to a regular ski boot. And I've seen some really impressive stuff on video, people doing some hard carving on powder, on terrain parks, those types of things, and I don't do any of that. I'm more of a blue and green skier with the occasional blacks, and I just like going out and having a good time and being comfortable. And I really, really wanted to solve the problem of going on ski trips and doing a day of skiing and then kind of being wiped out, and the feet and the ankles and the calves hurting so much that I don't want to ski anymore. So really, when you go on a big trip like that, you want to make the most of it. And now I think with something like this and my giant, weird sized calves, I'm actually going to be able to go out and enjoy skiing a whole heck of a lot more. So if you want to pick these up, like I said, you know, they're kind of expensive, but all ski boots really are. Ski equipment is just crazy expensive. But for about $699, I think you can actually save yourself some money over buying a $500 ski boot and having it custom heat molded. And then on top of that, you might have to use an infrared light and have some custom adjustments as they kind of push out some of the plastic to get it to fit. So I think all in, it's no more expensive than a lot of boots. And like I said, now I can just release these 3 buckles here and step out of the chassis, and now I am in a walking boot. Hit the bar, hit the fire, grab a drink. You can walk around in these. These are phenomenal. I am super excited. I cannot wait to hit the slope with these. I am going to give you a follow-up after I get a couple days of skiing in and give you my thoughts on these, but right now I am super excited. For someone like me, with my shape, with my limitations, I haven't really had any other options. So I'm super excited about being able to potentially ski without pain and actually enjoy it. Hey, if you want to pick these up, I will put a link to them in the description below. Peter Von Panda, out.